like to make a quick video that covers the disassembly of the turret for a Lyman Super Targetspot 3-point suspension mount. I purchased one of these scopes with a rifle a few months back, and when I had it outside, when I first purchased it, it was cold as hell, and I had problems actually making the adjustments because they were old. The grease inside was very cold, and the grease had basically turned kind of like a paste. When I got home, I went ahead and started trying to disassemble them. I really couldn't figure it out. Nothing seemed to be coming apart. Found a website. I'll have a link to that in the description, that gave a really good overview of how the parts seemed to work together, and had a parts blowout where it had been disassembled. What I'll tell you is that instruction page, as well as just my own experience. My recommendation would be to first of all get yourself some Croil, let this stuff soak for at least a day, and then use some heat from like a hair dryer or something to warm these up before you really start trying to disassemble them. These parts here are made out of nylon or Delrin. The way they're affixed, of course, they could be broken. So what I'd recommend is that you take your time when you're disassembling this stuff. Let the Croil soak in very well, and then start to disassemble it. So what I've got here are two. I've got one that's fully assembled, and I've got it all greased up. I use synthetic auto grease on this one. This one's already been disassembled. I'm going to use this to illustrate this. Again, keep in mind, this is going to come apart relatively simply, just based on the fact that I've already had this stuff apart. I've cleaned it very well with acetone, and it's obviously going to be easier to take apart. So just to begin with, what you're going to want to do when you soak this is you're going to want to find something like a screwdriver and basically put it in here and then turn the screwdriver. So what you'll be able to do is see how this comes apart. Okay, and with just gentle pressure over time, you're going to want to basically push this out with like a screwdriver. Of course, I'm using a smaller screwdriver here, but you're going to want to just use a larger screwdriver that'll fit in there, and then just turn that until that starts to come loose. Basically pull this apart, and you put this off to the side. The next piece, what you're going to want to do is separate essentially the outer body of the turret with the inner body, the inner mechanism. And there's two parts. There's a lower part and a top here. The way you do this is, again, I'd recommend using gunsmithing tools here. The actual size of this screwdriver I'm using, it says Bonanza Sports #1. Basically what you're going to do is put this in here, and you're going to feel it engage with the actual screw, with the screw. And what you're going to need to do, this does not want to come out, is put your thumb against this flange here, and then just gradually, and taking it easy, start to back this out. And then you can hear this click when you've got it out. Now at this point, again, this thing was all mucked up. It was really, really hard to get apart. What I would recommend doing, again, is take a screwdriver, a larger screwdriver than this, put this down here, and then just twist the screwdriver. And that should apply the pressure required over time for you to remove this inner piece here. All right. And this, again, this piece, obviously this looks a hell of a lot easier, but this was coated with old grease, and it was very sticky and just did not want to come apart. The Croil did a fantastic job of breaking that up, making it easier for me to be able to pull it out. I just can't recommend enough. Use the Croil, let it do its job. Use some heat. If it doesn't want to budge, then just go back to using some more Croil. You can't buy these things anymore. They're not manufactured except from somebody like Steve Earle, where you have to buy an entire set. Take your time. You've got time to get this stuff done. Now, inside this is this little set screw. It's an internally threaded, locking screw. You can see here. And this little, there's where the internal threading is, okay? And that's going to go over the inside of this, the cap that's inside here. Now this is basically just like a micrometer style body that comes off the actual turret body. All this is, it's got set screws on it that allows you to basically reset these tick marks for whatever your zero is. Now there's two ways to do this. One way is you can take a punch and go ahead and put a punch in here and basically punch through, because there is an internal screw in here. What I did and what I'd recommend is go ahead and take a utility knife and just put that in there and be easy with it and pry that up. Now you can see that there's a detent like pin or plunger in here, and there's obviously a spring behind it, so you want to be careful. You especially want to be careful after you clean it, but realistically, when I opened this thing up, it was so gummed up that this really didn't even want to come out. You can take this out, and then you can use a dental tool or something to get the spring out. Oh, there it is. So there's the internal spring. You can see here, this is that cap or the upper part of the turret for this like clicking mechanism, and then here's that internally threaded locking screw, and that just goes on as such. One thing I'll tell you is when you are assembling it, typically what you want to do is back this stuff off until it clicks. The idea is you're going to be able to get on it, get it on properly. What it seems to me is sometimes it'll give you a false click, and this thing will only go on a little bit. So make sure when you do reassemble this, that you're getting a good, like full 4 turns on that before it's all set up. Now, when this is all put back together, the idea again, here's one that's fully assembled, and you're going to get this clicking, okay? And that's on the inside of here. There's all these little grooves, and then that little detent pin or plunger fits into there. So that's basically it. Of course, to reassemble, you do it in the opposite direction of what I've shown here. One thing I'll tell you is be careful with this little detent screw here, detent spring and the plunger, because when you're putting this thing together, they will want to fly out. I just recommend you just lay this on a good hard flat surface and then reassemble this, and then essentially just push this back together, and it'll just fit right back in there. After I'd cleaned this up, I noticed I could use a punch and just push this through a little bit. You can do that. I don't think you're going to bugger the screws too bad if you use the right size punch or the threads. You won't bugger them. But like I said, it's just prying it off with the utility knife is just as efficient. Anyways, hopefully this was useful for you. I wanted to put this out here. Again, much thanks to the gentleman who created that page, because I don't even think I would have tried this without seeing how everything broke apart. So hopefully this was useful. Thanks everybody. Take care.